My name is Joe Steagall. I'm running for Langlade County Sheriff, and I would appreciate your vote on November 6th.
Joe, can you give me a little background information on yourself?
Well, George, I've been a lifelong resident of Langlade County. I have worked over 15 years in law enforcement, and I also own a small business, logging business.
Joe, why are you running for sheriff in Langlade County?
Well, George, after being in law enforcement for 15 years and seeing how things are being done in Langlade County, I think it is time for change. Hopefully better change, good change.
What is your assessment of the Sheriff's Department over the past several years?
My opinion is there's a lack of leadership, not being proactive to the problems that we're facing, being out of touch with our citizens and our communities. We need to get back out there and be friendly.
What problems do you see need fixing here in Langlade County?
Our epidemic with meth and heroin.
Okay, when you say epidemic, what's the problem? How do we fix it?
It's running rampant, and we need to get a handle on it. We need to crack down harder on the people that are dealing it, the people that are making it. We can get a handle on it. We just need to work with the court system and make sure that these people do some time, maybe get cleaned up, maybe we can find some programs, put them to work. Maybe they can come back and be working citizens contributing to the community.
Versus what are they doing now with them?
Well, they get lighter sentences. It's like a revolving door. They come in, they get out. Their bonds, in my opinion, aren't high enough. Anybody dealing meth should be sitting in the jail or in a prison.
Mm-hmm. And when you say the bonds, in your opinion, aren't high enough, what do you mean by that?
Well, you can get a relatively low bond because a lot of people don't have. A lot of these people in the business of meth and heroin aren't what you call the dealers. They're the users, and they get out and use, and it's just a revolving door.
And, I know we were talking earlier about that problem a little bit, and you mentioned about, kind of, I don't know how we would word this correctly, but you mentioned about being somewhat of a depressed community in certain areas, especially, and it all kind of adds to that meth problem, yeah?
Yes, you got to give people something to work for. Give them some pride and some dignity. We're a poor community, and we need to give people something to live for. Mm-hmm. Let them learn how to earn a living and help them get to where they need to be.
Okay, Joe. Let's talk about the court system. Is there anything there that can be improved upon?
I believe there is, George. The court system seems to be stagnant, backed up over what I would call pettier crimes, and I think we need to move that along and get to the serious business at hand, which is the harder drugs plaguing our community.
Mm-hmm. So we talked a little bit earlier, Joe, and we talked a little bit about like some of the minor things that go on, and there's so much attention. Like you mentioned something about being able to write ordinance violations for marijuana.
That's in the city of Antigo. They can. It's up to the officer, but I believe the county should have that ordinance. And I am truly a believer in medical marijuana. I think it should be legal, and I hope it passes on the referendum.
And it seems like today, marijuana is just as common as going to get a pack of cigarettes at the gas station. I mean, it's such a minor thing, but yet there seems to be so much focus on it from the police department. I mean, what's your take on that, Joe?
My belief is that maybe if these people were allowed to smoke their marijuana, just maybe they wouldn't be out here doing the meth and the heroin. When people are put on probation, they tend to back off the marijuana and do something that leaves their system quicker than marijuana does. It takes 30 days for that to leave your system. Heroin and meth leaves your system within hours.
Mm-hmm. And so, just to kind of wrap up the discussion on that, but, because it seems, it's all illegal drugs.
Exactly.
But when there's so much time focused on that, it just takes away the man hours that are available to begin with. So your take is basically, why are we spending so much time on that petty stuff versus the important stuff?
Right. We need to move on. Half the states, I believe, have legalized marijuana, so we should move past that point of locking our citizens up here and focus on the real problems.
Joel, let's talk about the lack of staffing that you've observed over the years.
Well, there's too many chiefs and not enough Indians to run the departments here.
What have you noticed? What's happening?
Well, there's not enough jail staff for sure, especially when we're housing other county inmates. It's and that just opens up a whole new can of worms.
Tell me about that, Joel. I know we talked about it a little bit earlier today about the problems with that. Now, when you say bringing in these people from all these other counties and whatnot and bringing them into our jail system, what comes with these people? It's not just getting somebody here and we get paid to house them or whatnot.
Right.
There's more to it than that. It creates a problem, yes?
Yeah. We end up having their families follow them here. And if I was, I'd do the same thing, but I'm sure that these counties we're housing for aren't sending us their best model inmates. And when their family follows, then we get more of that in our community. And in the long run, it's going to cost Langlade County more than it's worth.
Right. So the bottom line with that, or what you're trying to say with that is, when they come, you're not getting their star pupils from these jail systems. You're getting problem prisoners.
Right. We're just bringing in more of the problems that we already have. Like I've said, the meth and the heroin. That's run wild in Langlade County. So.
Yeah, and that's not going to get any better if we just continue to bring in more of the same clientele, I guess you would say.
Right.
Okay.
And with the lack of staff, it's a liability too.
So when you talk about the lack of staff, are we talking about the jail area? What are we talking about?
I pretty much believe the whole department has been short for years.
So it's difficult to take care of, 100 inmates when you got, X many people to watch them.
Yeah, and there's been instances recently, I know, thank God the staff was there, took care of the problems, but it's a lot of weight on, especially corrections back when they're working short.
Right, and it's a huge liability.
Right.
Joel, what do you think is the most important skills of being a good sheriff?
Being a leader, having good communication skills, that's very important. You learn that being in law enforcement for 15 years and having my own business. You have to have good communications, And I think that's what we're lacking these days.
I know we talked earlier a little bit about how back in the old days everybody knew every policeman's name, and you shook hands with them every time you saw them, and you waved, they waved back. What do you see happening today?
It's a different way now. It seems like instead of the friendly, get to know your people of your county and your citizens of the community, it seems to be more us against them, and I think we're missing out by not being out there and going to the ball games again and talking to people and being friendly and just being human to the people of the Langlade County, instead of having that chip on your shoulder that people will like you again. You just got to get to know them.
Yeah, I know we talked earlier about that in quite detail about seeing how things used to be, and people would open up to policemen when they do their investigations a lot easier back in the day because people trusted the authorities and people were friendly and the police were friendly with them. So you opened up. You told them, yeah, so-and-so lives over here, so-and-so is over there. If you don't have that communication with them, what happens?
You're right, George. The old saying, you catch more flies with honey than you will with shit, holds true in this business.
Joe, last time you ran, you lost by an extremely narrow margin. What would you like to tell the citizens of Langlade County as to why they should vote for Joe Steagall?
Look, George, I'm just a common guy. If you want real change, then vote for me November 6th. What you see is what you get.